My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask you for pardon of my sins and grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Some of you might know the book The Hobbit by Tolkien, the same author who wrote The Lord of the Rings. Well, it was one of my favorite books as a kid. And it begins off with the great wizard Gandalf looking for somebody to help him with a very important mission. And he approaches Bilbo Baggins in the Shire. And he finds Bilbo, who's a very kind of relaxed hobbit. He's there sitting down, smoking his pipe, blowing smoke rings. And the conversation begins with Gandalf telling him that his smoke rings are very pretty, but that he doesn't have any time to be blowing smoke rings this morning. For, as he says, I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure that I'm arranging, and it's very difficult to find anyone. And the response of Bilbo Baggins, who's very comfortable there with the smoke ring, sitting in the sunshine, cross-legged on his little chair, he says, I should think so in these parts. We are plain, quiet folk and have no use for adventures. Nasty, disturbing, uncomfortable things make you late for dinner. I can't see what anybody sees in them. And with that, he blows out another smoke ring. That is a bit like a character in today's gospel, in a story that this time Jesus tells, a parable. It's a parable of three men who are approached by a man with money, an investor, who's heading off and he gives them money to invest on his behalf. And to one of them, he gives 5 talents. A talent is a measure of wealth. And to another one, he gives 2 talents. And to another one, 1 talent. Quite a lot of money. It's quite valuable, a talent. And the first guy goes off and he trades daringly with his talent. The guy with the 2 talents, he does the same. But the guy with the 1 talent responds very differently. He heads off with a little spade in his hand, digs a nice deep hole, puts the talent probably wrapped up in a napkin, buries it carefully and fills in the hole and puts a little marker on it, and he heads home. And then when the investor comes back, wondering, well, how the guys are done with this money, the guy with 5 says, well, here you go, I invested, I got 5 more. The guy with 2 talents, very similar, he says, well, I invested, got 2 more, doubled what you gave me. But the guy who had invested, or didn't invest, but buried the 1 talent, he comes along and he says to the investor, he says, sir, I had heard you were a hard man, reaping where you had not sown and gathering where you have not scattered, so I was afraid. And I went off and hid your talent in the ground. Here it is. It was yours. You have it back. The key phrase there is, so I was afraid. What was he afraid of? The other 2 weren't afraid. Maybe they had fear, but they weren't dominated by their fear. They went off and kind of courageously or daringly invested their talents and doubled the sum. What was he afraid of? I think he was afraid of the exact same thing that Bilbo Baggins is afraid of, and that is having his nice, comfortable life disturbed. He wants to be able to smoke his pipe, like Bilbo, get home in time for dinner, have nothing to worry about, have no uncomfortable, nasty, disturbing things like having to invest money. Much easier just to dig a nice big hole, put it in there, and when the master comes back, here you go. You give it to me, here you go. I didn't invest it. And of course that fellow is rebuked quite strongly. He's told that he is a wicked and lazy servant. Very strong words. Jesus didn't come into this world to give us a comfortable life. But really, you, Lord, came to stir things up. You are in the Old Testament prophesied as a lion, the Lion of Judah. And a lion is really quite a dangerous thing. Not a nice, safe little chihuahua or something, but a lion. Christ is a lion. Somebody said, an American writer, Dorothy Sayers, she kind of saw that even the church has made this lion a little bit too tame. And this way she puts it, it's kind of funny. She says, the church has very efficiently pared the claws of the Lion of Judah, making him a fitting pet for pale curates and pious old ladies. They're strong words. The church, as he's talking about Christianity in general, I think, but paring his claws. This lion is no longer dangerous. He will no longer be able to scratch you or claw you to death. And so little old ladies and pious pale curates can keep him as a pet. But Christ is no pussycat. And we can't reduce him to somebody who won't disturb my comfortable life. Somebody who's quite happy if I bury myself and all my talents in the ground and hide myself and don't make any impact on those around me. Jesus said very clearly in the gospel, he actually said somewhere else, he said, do not think I've come to bring peace on earth. Don't think I've come to allow you to smoke your pipe and blow smoke rings and always get home in time for dinner. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword, Jesus says. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's foes will be those of his own household. In other words, troubles. To be a Christian is to risk everything. This is something that Pope Francis has actually said quite a lot, especially to young people, where he's very, very kind of straightforward, said, don't be a conformist. You have to be non-conformist to be Christians. You have to be rebels. Here's something he said to university students. He says, the social, cultural context of which you are a part is at times weighed down by mediocrity and boredom. You must not resign yourselves to the monotony of everyday life, but rather cultivate broad-ranging plans. Go beyond the ordinary. It's a way of saying, don't bury yourself in the ground. Don't create a comfortable little hole for yourself. It could be your bedroom. Just hide away there and just not engage with life and not engage with your faith, not engage with Jesus, but have a danger-free, adventure-free life. Jesus, you made us to be rebels. You made us to not just to be rebels for the sake of rebelling, but in order to bear great fruits, like those other two who didn't bury their talents. And then when the master came, was able to say, look, I've borne all these fruits for you. And of course, that's what makes us happy. An adventure is difficult. It's uncomfortable, at times dangerous, but it's also very exciting and very rewarding. And that's the life of a Christian. Then we are happy. You, Lord, made us for this adventure. And then our lives start to be genuinely fruitful. Or the investment, Lord, that you made in us, giving us these talents, begin to bear fruit. And we can say, look at the influence I'm beginning to have on some of my friends, because I don't keep my faith a secret. Or on some of my colleagues at work, because I talk to one or another about things in my faith. I invite them to come to Mass with me, or confession, or whatever. People in my family, they see that I've changed. That also, maybe I'm more daring, but especially that I'm more happy. And then Jesus is beginning to say to us something that we will hear at the end of our lives, and we hear in today's Gospel. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have shown you can be faithful in small things. I will trust you with greater. Come and join in your Master's happiness. I give you thanks, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask you for help to put them into effect. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.